Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Alicia Vaz, and I am an account manager in the Architecture, Engineering and Construction team. And this year, I am delighted to be back as your host for the ArcGIS Update 2025 webinar series. Now, in today's spring edition, we will be taking a look at all the latest and greatest updates to make its way through to the ArcGIS system this quarter, giving you a chance to hear what's new, but most importantly, help your organisation to start to plan for the future. Now, alongside me today, I am joined by a fantastic lineup of presenters, including our Chief Technical Officer, Mark Wells, and three of our incredible GIS consultants, Tom Simpson, Claudia Hodgson, and Molly Brabham. So thank you, team, for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have in store for us. But before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. Today's webinar is live and it will be recorded. So if you need to drop off at any point or come back and you'd like to catch up, we will be circulating the recording alongside the slides and any links referenced today in a follow-up email. We will not be taking a live Q&A, however, you can still capture questions with us on Slido. Please make sure that you log and upvote questions, as the most upvoted questions will be addressed in our follow-up email. Now, if you haven't used Slido before, you can either scan the QR code on screen or navigate to slido.com and enter in the event code. And it's worth keeping an eye out for the poll section at the end, as this is a great opportunity to provide us with your feedback on how you found today's session, but more importantly, what you'd like to see in the future. Now, in terms of what we've got coming up today, we're going to kick things off with the headline news, a few short, sharp, and sweet updates to be aware of this quarter. We'll then hear from Mark on some of the latest developments in the ArcGIS system, before handing over to Tom, who's going to walk us through what's new in ArcGIS Online. And last but certainly not least, we'll be joined by Claudia and Molly, who are going to take us a step back in time and look at the past 12 months and cover app enhancements that we may have missed. So with that, let's get started with the headline news. Now, in February, we saw an update to ArcGIS Online make its way through to the system. And with it, we saw lots of exciting new updates come through to ArcGIS Story Maps. This includes changes to charts, so it's now possible to add up to 3 data series in either a column, a bar, and a line chart. So if you're working with a variety of attributes, this could be really beneficial. Those charts can also be included in a sidecar panel. So if you're looking to expand and collapse your information, infographics and charts can now form part of that. And similarly to other platforms and systems, you can now share your story maps using QR codes, making it easier than ever to disseminate your content. And finally, for story maps, we've introduced shared themes. So if you're looking to brand a variety of story maps together, with the shared themes, you can configure everything from the logo to the color scheme, all the way through to the button itself. Now, it should come as no surprise, but we are on a journey, and that journey is to see Web App Builder being deprecated. As part of that journey, when we release ArcGIS Enterprise 11.5, this will be the last version of Enterprise that will include Web App Builder. When we jump to the next release, which will be version 12, you will no longer be able to view, create, or edit any of your existing Web App Builder apps. So this is just a gentle reminder, if you haven't already done so, and you're looking to still use that content, that you will need to migrate your apps onto an alternative template. Now, the good news is that there's a variety of templates out there that you can utilize, everything from instant apps to dashboards and even Experience Builder. Next, we have Oriented Imagery Classic. This add-on in particular provided a whole host of capabilities for viewing 360, street view imagery, imagery captured by drones, and even videos. It was so popular that over time we started to see more and more demand for the capabilities. So we started to take that add-on capabilities and build it into the wider ArcGIS system. If you haven't already done so, it's worth taking a look at the Map Viewer, Quick Capture, or even Experience Builder, where you can already work with oriented imagery. And once we have parity with the add-on, we will be deprecating Oriented Imagery Classic, but more to come in this space over time. Next, we have ArcGIS Excalibur, which is a web app that can bring together GIS along with imagery. It's a great solution if you want to provide greater context and understanding in your data. Now, with the named user changes that occurred last June, anybody using a creator or a user type above can now access ArcGIS Excalibur. And Excalibur is currently in public beta in ArcGIS Online. So in the latest release, we saw a variety of tools make its way through to the system. And equally, if you're using Enterprise from 11.4, ArcGIS Excalibur will be included in the main deployment of Enterprise, so you can access it directly without having to install the technology separately. Now, other updates include the ability to pull through web maps directly to Excalibur, but you can also now create your own within the confines of the solution. At the end of February, we also welcome the latest release of Suite for ArcGIS, which is version 8.5. And with it, we introduced a new scripting experience in the Arcade editor, in the form of a code suggestion panel for on-the-go code snippets. This is really beneficial as it allows you to not only save time, but also ensure that there are reduced errors in your code itself. With Suite, we also introduced support for subtype group layers, so you can now define unique topology, connectivity, and attribute rules for subtypes within a single layer. And finally, when it comes to Suite, we've migrated to the Calcite design system. This brings with it a more intuitive experience, aligning the interface with other Esri products. Now, for any developers that might be on the call today, we've also seen a variety of updates make its way through to the ArcGIS Maps SDK for JavaScript. We introduced display filters, which, if you're working at scale, now enables you to define what attributes display at each level. Previously, we had similar functionality, but you would have had to have duplicated the layer to get that similar functionality to appear. Equally, on our website, we have recently revamped it and included components, which are really the building blocks for web apps, which allow you to deploy them with minimal code. Now, there's lots of new and exciting updates on our website and also best practices as well. So if you are exploring new capabilities or simply just want to get familiar with the SDK, then it's worth checking out our website in the first instance. And finally, we have location services, which is readily available under the ArcGIS location platform. Now, this platform is designed for developers looking to stand up and create their own applications, but pulls through services from the Esri system. The location services within it came out in beta in August, and as of this quarter, those services are out of beta and ready to consume. Services include elevation, where you can drop a pin on either the land or a water body and return the elevation on that point. But it also includes static base map tile services, which was purposely designed so individuals could access vector tile base maps in web browsers that no longer support WebGL. And there's a variety of styles available from street, navigation, topography, and even outdoors. So there's lots to get excited about this quarter, whether you're a developer or somebody new to the ArcGIS system. So with that, I'd like to bring the headline news to a close and hand you over to our Chief Technical Officer, Mark Wells, to give us his update this quarter. So Mark, over to you.
That's great. Thanks very much, Alicia. Good morning, everyone. Let me just share some content with you. Great. So we've got quite a lot that I want to share with you today about some of the things that are going on in ArcGIS. So I'm going to jump straight in with a couple of pinpoint updates. The first one is about ArcGIS Geoanalytics ArcGIS Geoanalytics for Microsoft Fabric. It's now in public preview. So what that means is that we've been working with Microsoft. We've partnered with Microsoft to deploy geospatial capabilities natively inside of Microsoft Fabric, which is Microsoft's new enterprise analytics platform. And the fact that it's in public preview means that it's free to use for the next few weeks. So no licensing costs for Esri. All you need to pay is the underlying infrastructure costs like you would with any other cloud provider. So if your organization is making use of Azure or Fabric, maybe you're a data scientist or engineer, or you've got those types of roles in your organization, you can go and try this out for free, no cost, and start bringing geospatial analysis into your data workflows. The way that you do that is if you go and look at the Microsoft documentation, it will talk you through exactly how to enable that and how to go about that. So that is there. The other announcement I wanted to draw your attention to is that at Esri, we have recently launched the content store for ArcGIS. So we've partnered with a company called Skywatch to do this. And it's really about providing ArcGIS users with access to premium commercial imagery. It's a premium content store for partners to offer data and content to ArcGIS users and for users to discover, purchase, and use that data natively. And the way that you do that is you go into the ArcGIS marketplace and you can search for the ArcGIS content store, and you should find the content store here, and you can go through and you can enable that for your organization. And once you've done that, you can launch this from the app launcher in ArcGIS Online, and you can explore that. Okay, so there are a couple of highlights for me. Let me take you through something a little bit chunkier. I would like to give you an update about some developments that we're starting to make in the ArcGIS system around the use of AI. Now, at Esri, we're building AI into ArcGIS in two ways. The first is GeoAI. This is about the use of traditional AI approaches to solve geospatial problems. Things like using computer vision and machine learning to perform actions like object detection and feature extraction. You know, these are the sorts of AI approaches which are well established and embedded in ArcGIS. They've been there for many years, way before the kind of generative AI hype that we've sort of seen come through in the media in the last few years. And then on the right-hand side, we've got AI assistance, and this is using these new generative approaches through natural language to simplify access to GIS and to help to GIS professionals to expand productivity. Now, that's what we've already been doing, but the new thing that I wanted to share with you is to support this, we're starting to build an AI framework into ArcGIS. And the reason that we're doing this is to centralize some of those AI capabilities that are starting to make their way into apps. So, for example, you might know we've got an assistant that can auto-generate you a survey in Survey 123. And you can also configure that application to extract information from your images. So from your photos, you can auto-populate fields and you know, the AI can effectively extract that data from the photo. Now, these are great capabilities, but we want to start leveraging those and making those sorts of things available to more and more applications. And so that's why we're building this core framework into ArcGIS. And the way that we do that is we centralize capabilities behind our REST API, and that makes them accessible to multiple applications, to developers, to third parties. So let me just show you a little bit about how that works. So let's orientate ourselves today. You know, at the top tier, if you like, we have all of the applications that you know and love, the things that you use your named user to sign into, Survey 123, ArcGIS Pro, Map Viewer, Field Maps, all of the different applications that you have. Now, what happens under the hood is those applications make calls on our REST API. This is services-based approach of how they ask questions, how they perform analysis, how they get capabilities is through our REST API. Behind that API is all of our capabilities. So all of the different tools and content, Living Atlas, feature services, anything that you publish through ArcGIS Online or through ArcGIS Enterprise effectively sits behind in the underlying system and is exposed through that API. Now, if we think about the REST API specifically around AI capabilities today, what we have looks a bit like this. So we have all of our GeoAI framework there. You can make calls on models, you can train models, you can run notebooks, you can perform raster analytics, all of that good stuff. That's all been there for some time. The new part that we're starting to develop now is this AI skills framework. And this is going to be bringing the generative capabilities as services exposed through the REST API, which means that we can consume that from a variety of different applications or from third-party apps, make developer calls on them, and so on. And in that skills framework will be capabilities like semantic search, mapping assistance, code generators, app generators, and the ability for developers to build their own custom skills as well. So the way I describe this is about moving ArcGIS from making use of AI approaches, which is sort of what we're doing today, to ArcGIS being powered by AI. And what's really important, I think, goes hand in hand with that is the ethics of putting AI into our technology. And what we're doing is building out a really important set of resources to help you here as well. Because as we develop as a society, as we develop more use of AI, I think increasingly it's important that we're transparent about how data is being used, what we do with information that goes into AI, where we are storing it, where we're making it available. And actually, we have a principle at Esri that your data belongs to you. And so this information that we've got on our trust center, it goes through and talks about all of the things that I've just spoken about, the different types of AI use cases, the landscape, some of our guiding principles behind the decisions that we've made here, how we deal with privacy, the fact that your data is yours and we won't use it to train LLMs, and we make sure that it doesn't get exposed outside of the Esri network, for example. Fairness and transparency in what we're doing, accountability, and the fact that we have a shared responsibility in this. There are sets of things that are our responsibility at Esri to take care of, and actually when you deploy these tools, there are things that you as an organization also need to be aware of in how you make sure that you're secure and accountable and trusted in the way that you're using this stuff as well. There's a level of choice in this. So as we improve and increase the amount of AI tools in the system, we want you to be sure and happy that you want to turn those on and know that you've got good governance in the control of what's going on. So by default, these things will be turned off. And you, as an administrator, have got the chance to go and read up on all of this stuff and make those good decisions before you turn the tools on. So look, the ethics here of AI is increasingly important, and I think it is a vital area really as we increasingly scrutinize the use of our data and the use of AI in our technology. And that's not just Esri technology, but that's a much broader industry-wide thing. So that's a really important set of resources there. Okay, moving on then. Surprise! ArcGIS Desktop is retiring. Hopefully not a surprise. So just a reminder really that that's ArcMap, that's ArcCatalog, ArcScene, all of the products that come under that ArcGIS Desktop banner is now retiring less than 12 months away. It's on the 1st of March next year. So we're in that final countdown. If you haven't already migrated away from ArcGIS Desktop to user types, then you really need to start planning. And today, ArcGIS is a rich ecosystem. It's not like it was 25 years ago when ArcGIS Desktop was launched. It has professional capabilities across the whole system. So there's not just one migration path. Of course, many people are migrating to ArcGIS Pro, but equally, we're seeing many organizations move to ArcGIS Online and WebGIS to support their work. So it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. If you're not sure, please reach out to us, contact your customer success manager, talk to the technical support help desk. We really want to help you with this. And while we're talking about user types, let me just finish up on this then. User types are our approach now to gain access to ArcGIS, and there are 6 different roles to choose from. We introduced this licensing model last year. We moved away from licensing hundreds of separate products to these 6 user types that come with apps and capabilities bundled in. We did this really for a couple of reasons. The first one was to simplify our licensing, how you access ArcGIS. We recognized that, well, after hearing lots of your feedback, that licensing hundreds of individual products is overly complex, it's difficult for you to navigate, and we wanted to improve that. And the second thing is that we wanted to provide you with choice and agility in how you use ArcGIS. And like I said, there's many different capabilities now across web, mobile, desktop, cloud, and you might want to pick and choose how you access different things and use the most appropriate tool for the task. The best way of doing that is to enable you as an individual with the apps and the capabilities that allow you to make those choices. So we launched this user model in a major release last June. And at that point, we wrapped in a large number of apps and capabilities bundled into those user types. And that's actually been really, really popular. but we also recognize our work is not done. And we know that we can still simplify things further. There are still some extensions and add-ons that are not bundled with user types. We're working to address some of that. And so later this year, we're planning to wrap in a few more things. We're planning to streamline things further, give you more value in the apps that come at each level. We're just putting the finishing touches to that plan. So look out for comms on that over the next few weeks. And for us, this is an iterative process. So we'll continue to innovate, continue to release new apps and capabilities. And we also want to continue to simplify things and reduce complexity as well. So we're going to keep working at that. And with that, Alicia, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. There's some fantastic bits in there. I think I'm really looking forward to the content store actually to see what our customers on today's call actually find useful and beneficial and what they find about it. So yeah, really excited. So next up we've got Tom, and Tom is going to walk us through what's new in ArcGIS Online. So Tom, are you there?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm here. So good morning, everyone. As Alicia said, my name's Tom Simpson, and I'm a GIS consultant here at Esri UK. And today I'm going to be giving you a bit of an insight as to what's new in ArcGIS Online, following on from the recent February update. So there've been a lot of updates and changes in the recent updates, too much for me to fit into today's call, but I've picked out some of the highlights that have been included. Now, this includes enhanced symbology to Map Viewer, dual access graphs and Google Analytics and dashboards, new and improved widgets within the Experience Builder app, a refined user interface in Instant Apps, as well as some other tools, including a new summarized tool within data pipelines. But starting off with Map Viewer. So within Map Viewer, you can now create, manage, and update feature templates for hosted feature layers directly within Map Viewer if you are the layer owner or an administrator. Now, previously, this was only supported within Map Viewer Classic and in Field Maps. The editor now supports different drawing tools when creating polygon and line features, and you can now choose from the new freehand, rectangle, and circle drawing tools to make your sketching even easier. When styling symbols, you can now configure additional animation properties depending on the size, including color transition, rotation, scale factor, and transparency. And if your feature layer includes attachments, you can now choose how the attachments are sorted and displayed in the pop-up. Now, just in Map Viewer here, and as you can see, I'm showing some earthquake data, some global earthquake data. Now, as you can see, the symbology is quite basic. We just have singular white dots. So to take advantage of some of these animated symbols, we can do this within the Styles tab. So on the right here, I can change this, and instead of having a basic point, I can take advantage of one of the animated vector symbols. So if I click on one of these here, change the size, you can see we have a dynamic vector symbol. It's moving, it's animated, and we can also change some of the sort of underlying characteristics. So within the animation pane, I can change the scale factor, I can change whether it's randomized or a manual offset, as well as such other things as duration and whether it's looped or oscillating. But for earthquake data, this might not be the best suited symbology, as we want to maybe highlight some of the extreme values. So to do that, we can take advantage of some of the other vector symbols here. As you can see here, I have an exclamation mark highlighting earthquakes of the highest magnitude. Now, as you can see, it's again another animated symbol. And like the last one, I can change some of the characteristics based upon rotation in this instance, but I can also change the color transition. So within here, I can go to the animation pane and change whether I want it to transition from red or to another color. And as I mentioned, there have been improvements to the overall attachment element. So if I add this one, if I click on this symbol here, there we go. You can see that I have some photographic evidence of, in this case, earthquake activity. as well as a PDF attachment. Now within here, I can go to, I can see whether the pop-up changed some of the sort of characteristics of this. So as you can see here, I have an attachment, and you can see I've set it as gallery. Now this is a new and improved element. I can change it whether it's a list, and I can also let the map viewer itself choose the best automated display option, well in this case is the gallery option. So moving on to Model Builder now. So there's been an improved tool organization. So this gives us the ability to see the tools within Model Builder in the same similar fashion to the ArcGIS Online feature analysis toolset. There's also two additional tools. These include the Enrich layer and the Generate Travel Areas. Now it is worth noting that these both consume credits within an active model session, but also include credit usage as if you were using these by themselves without using them within Model Builder. And you can also now share models within your groups, ArcGIS organization, and even the public. And this added feature gives other users the ability to develop on existing and proven workflows, minimizing the need to recreate any complex models. So if I go back to my pane here, we can see I have some data here. Now, if you were on the call before Christmas, you may remember that we introduced the then new model builder within Map Viewer. Now, it just so happens that I want to do a similar analysis from one of my colleagues. So I'm able to obtain that model and then develop upon it. So if I go to Browse Analysis Models, search within my organization, you can see here that I have a model that I can then acquire and download a copy. Now I have already added this model here. Now as you can see, we have a boundary for Scotland and we have UK cities. And what this model is showing and analysing is creating an overlay between the UK cities and Scotland boundary, and in turn creating just the Scotland cities, and then performing a buffer analysis to create a buffer around those cities. Now I want to do a similar analysis, but using national parks of the UK. So I'm then able to download or save my own local copy and then create my own version here. So as you can see, a similar layout, but I have the national parks layer, I have a Scotland boundary layer, and then in this instance, I've created an intermediate layer here. So I haven't created a separate hosted feature layer for the Scottish parks because I'm just interested in the overall buffer. Now, once I ran this tool, I was able to create the buffer, as you can see on the left here. So again, this is a great way to minimize the need to start or recreate more complex models, and in turn, this can then be distributed to whoever I wish. So now moving on to ArcGIS Web Editor. So within Web Editor, we now have the functionality to do bulk attribute editing. Now this is a really good feature, as previously we only were able to do individual edits based on individual point, and we'd have to manually go through each individual feature and edit it. But with this new feature, we can highlight all the points that we want to edit, and we can do bulk attribute editing. And in this case, I'm changing the bin type to recycling. And again, this is a really good feature if we were dealing with a lot of data and over a large scale. Moving on to Scene Viewer now. So within Scene Viewer, we can now view multiple BIM models. And this feature in Scene Viewer allows users to view detailed models of multiple built-in scene layers at once, enhancing use cases like asset management and construction site inspections. Scene Viewer provides a new and simplified phone user experience that supports 3D presentation capabilities. And feature and scene layers can now be duplicated to efficiently copy layer styles and properties. We can also enhance our 3D presentations within Slide Manager. You can now add slide captions and automatically display legends while moving through a scene. As you can see here, in the slide manager pane on the left, we have the addition of captions and covers. And these are then included within the presentation mode, along with the legend, giving your work more context whilst presenting. Now moving on to dashboards. So you can now create a dual axis chart in a multi-series features serial chart within dashboards. Within element headers, you are now available in the General tab to provide more consistent styling for titles, as well as the More Information tool, giving you the ability to add in any disclaimers, metadata, or other background information. Dashboard authors can now use Google Analytics with measurement IDs in dashboards, and the configuration includes an optional consent message which can be used to allow a user to opt in or out to the analytics collection. Now to look at Experience Builder. So there have been some new widgets within Experience Builder. Firstly, the Oriented Imagery Viewer. You can visualize oriented imagery layers which contain imagery captured from any angle, whether that be a photo taken by workers on the ground on their phone, 360 panoramas, all the way up to drone imagery and terrestrial sensors. Secondly, the processing template. Raster function templates and the widget give you the ability to interactively change the display of imagery layers on the fly. And lastly, similar to the existing row widget, we have the flow row widget, where it is divided in a continuous row, whereas the flow row was set up in different columns. There's also been updates to the exporting settings. So these improvements to the export settings gives you more control over what can be exported and in what format. And this is a great addition from users new to GIS, only being able to export in standard CSV, for example, all the way up to using sensitive data which can't be exported at all. There have also been other enhancements to many of the pre-existing widgets, including business analyst, smart features, and other features. And just to show you one of those here, I have a tree preservation order. So here I have a tree preservation order application, and say for instance I want to know what tree preservation orders are within a locality of my proposed development. So I can create my proposed development. I will draw proposed development here, change my parameters to 100 meters within that location. And as you can see, we can export some information. Now, the new feature is the ability to export to PDF and create a report. Now, this is a great way if you want really quick and intuitive reporting, such as if you're back in the office and you're a manager and you want to see all of the layers and all of the information of those layers which are within the local environment. And from here, we can then print and distribute that as we wish. Moving on to Instant Apps now. So Instant Apps has a redesigned user interface, making it even easier to get up and running with their applications. The redesigned thumbnails give you a better look and feel of what the specific app will do, overall improving the decision process. The search bar allows you to quickly search for certain capabilities, whilst the addition of the capability matrix gives you a detailed understanding of what tools and features are included across all of the app templates. As the Instant App Catalog is constantly being updated, you can now hover over the announcement badge to learn more information, such as the recent updates to the Atlas template. Now, as I said, there's been a lot of updates, and so I will just leave this page up here, but hopefully that's given you a bit more insight as to what's new in ArcGIS Online, and hopefully given you some inspiration to try out some of these new tools yourself. So thank you very much, and back to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Tom. There's some really great bits in there. I think personally really excited to see Model Builder now readily available in ArcGIS Online. I'm sure many customers are quite excited about that. And equally, for those of you who are relatively new to maybe the Esri realm, I think the instant apps and the user interface there are really quite simple to get up and running with nowadays. So again, keen to hear everybody's feedback, but a lot to get your teeth into this quarter. So next up, I'd like to introduce you to Claudia, and Claudia is going to walk us through some of the app enhancements that we may have missed. So Claudia, over to you.
Thanks, Alicia, and good morning, everyone. I'm Claudia. I work in our product communications team here at Esri UK. And as Alicia mentioned, we're going to be having a look at some app enhancements. So I'm going to be covering some of our app builders and some specialist apps, and I'll then be handing over to Molly, who's going to talk us through some enhancements on our mobile applications as well. And we wanted to cover this session because we often in these kind of webinars have a look at what's new in ArcGIS in our latest releases and the newest things that have come into ArcGIS. But naturally, because there's so many different updates, we wanted to have a reflection over the last year and show you some of those enhancements that we've not perhaps mentioned on a webinar like this. So kicking straight off with app builders, I'm going to dive straight into Experience Builder to start with. Now, this release in February 2024 saw enhancements of a number of different widgets, such as the survey widget, swipe, but the one that I wanted to call out was the edit widget. And this is because it saw the enhancement of tooltips. So as you can see in the image, if you press tab on your keyboard while you're editing, it opens up those constraints you can see. So you can specify the exact length, angle, or elevation of that particular segment that you're drawing. So you can edit with the kind of control of knowing you can't go beyond those constraints. And this capability is also available in the ArcGIS web editor as well. Another enhancement in the release was the capability of setting URL parameters with the map widget. So under the settings tab of your Experience Builder, you can actually pass along information such as layer visibility, rotation, scale through the URLs for it to then open with those chosen settings for other users. Fast forward to June 2024, again, a number of updates, new features, but the one that I wanted to call out was for those who work with complex data, the ability to be able to view related records is critical. And with the related data action function, which you can find under those 4 dots that I've got on the screenshot there, that allows you to view your related records of your data in the pop-up. And with widgets such as table, feature info, select, query, list as well, and many more. Now, something to note with this, so pop-ups do honor the configuration that you've made in Map Viewer. So a current known limitation is that if you do have any configurations made with Arcade, they will not currently display when accessing your related record because Arcade isn't yet supported in Experience Builder. Fast forward to only November last year, again, several widget enhancements, but I wanted to focus on just 3 of these. And I'm actually going to jump into Experience Builder just to show you these in action. So if I go into my browser, apologies. Fab. So this is a configured app looking at wind farms, planning and construction across Scotland. And so on my map, it's symbolised by status. So that could be approved, constructed, under construction, for example. And then on the left-hand side, we've got the bar chart showing those turbines by status again. So previously, setting the colour of your bar series was a bit of a manual process, aligning it with your layers. But now if I click on my bar chart, go over to the right hand side and click the series tab, I can go ahead and use color from my layer. So it's automatically aligning that with my layer symbology. Another feature and a highly requested one was with the draw widget, the ability to be able to draw text along with other draw tools. So for example, if I go into click live view, I open my draw widget I've got here. I've got the usual tools you might expect for drawing annotations, but then I can also now as well annotate those drawings. I can't type and talk, but there we go. And I can go ahead and add that straight to my map. Now, this was a capability available in Web App Builder. So for those who are migrating, it's really great to see this functionality come to Experience Builder. And then similarly, another capability, again, that was available with Experience Builder, with Web App Builder and has been brought across was the ability to be able to add custom base maps to service URLs to your base map gallery widget. So again, I've got that widget here on the right-hand side. So if I open that up, and I click URL. Here I can actually enter the URL of my custom base map. I can click enter. Oh, apologies. And it then validates my base map. I can add a label and thumbnail if I want to, but just to show you for the purpose of this demo, I can go in as a user, open my base map gallery and have access to that custom base map. Jumping back to my slides a second. Now, a couple of those enhancements I mentioned were brought across from Web App Builder. So I just wanted to highlight the functionality matrix, which details all of the widgets across Web App Builder and Experience Builder, detailing exactly when they plan on moving into Experience Builder, on exactly what version of Enterprise. And if it's a widget that isn't migrating, they give you a migration plan for how to achieve whatever functionality it is you're looking for. And I spotted on the Q&A a couple of different questions about this, including the batch attribute editor, which you can see on the screenshot there is planned for the June release of 2025. And I've added a link to this on the slide, which you'll also get access to at the end. Moving to another app builder, dashboards, an enhancement I wanted to share was the introduction of a splash screen. So this is a feature we've had in other app builders, so it's great to see it come into dashboards as a way to be able to add contextual information or terms of use like it has done in the screenshot there. And this is also configurable for those who need dashboards on mobile. Story Maps is the last app builder I wanted to mention, and this has a monthly product update cycle. So I've picked just a couple of things from May, January, and February. The first of those is that in August 2024, you were able to now create templates. So these are currently in beta, but a highly requested feature. And in September last year, it was further enhanced to be able to allow you to duplicate an existing story as a template. Now, you have to allow duplication settings on your original story to allow you to do this. Another enhancement I couldn't resist squeezing in, and I must admit this is from August 2023, but thought worth a mention, is the ability to have your story opt out of web search indexing. So for those who need to share your story publicly, but you don't want it to appear in search results, that's a handy enhancement too. Now just moving on to a couple of our specialist apps, starting with data pipelines. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of this product, I've chosen to start back in February last year, which is when data pipelines came out of beta. And in a nutshell, it's a fast and efficient way to ingest, engineer, and maintain data from a variety of different locations, like cloud-based data stores such as Snowflake and Google BigQuery. Now, it has a similar interface as well to Model Builder for those who use that, as it has a drag and drop style interface, so it minimizes that need for any coding skills or any in-depth data integration processes. But exactly what enhancements have we seen? Well, in June 2024, we saw the enhancement of disconnected environments. Now, data pipelines consumes credits based on the amount of time your pipeline is connected for. So sometimes it can be easy to accidentally leave it running, but now you have the option to disconnect all environments, which will disconnect all open editors and stop any incurring credit costs. Another enhancement is the arcade geometry function in the calculate field tool, meaning you can create, manipulate, or enhance the geometry information in your dataset. That could be creating new geometries, buffering existing ones, or even calculating geometry attributes as well. Another enhancement again to credit consumption in November last year is the Estimate Credits feature. So that allows you to find the estimated number of credits which have been consumed while you've been engineering your data workflow. And another, some may say small, but heavily requested feature is the ability to actually add notes to the individual steps in your pipeline. So this could be useful when you're sharing your workflow with colleagues and you want to show what each step does. And Tom mentioned this in his update, that it was further enhanced with the search and sort note enhancement. Another area of ArcGIS, maps for Power BI. Now I've jumped straight to its latest release in November 2024 because I wanted to highlight its significant enhancement with the join layer functionality. With this update, you can now easily map Power BI data with any geography that's hosted in ArcGIS Online or Living Atlas. So essentially, that means you can map your Power BI data even when it lacks that spatial component, such as addresses or coordinates. And then the very final app enhancement from me that I wanted to mention was with Workflow Manager. In June 2024, it brought the enhancement of being able to perform batch actions on selected jobs. So using the multi-select toggle on the Manage page, you can now combine actions like upgrading, deleting, or closing jobs in bulk, making it far quicker and easier process to manage all of those jobs at once. So those are all of the enhancements from me. I'm going to hand over to Molly, who's going to show some enhancements across our mobile applications. But hopefully this is showing kind of how some of those enhancements can sneak their way into our apps. And I've linked all of those updates that I've mentioned just then into the slides, which you'll get access to. So now I'll hand over to Molly.
Thanks, Claudia, and good morning, everyone. I'm Molly, one of the graduate GIS consultants here, currently working in our pre-sales department. And following straight on from what Claudia's showed you in our apps, I'll be covering things you may have missed in mobile apps. So ArcGIS gives you access to a variety of mobile apps, which all have a different purpose. But today we'll be looking specifically at updates to our core apps, which are Quick Capture, Survey 123, and Field Maps. So a bit about these apps if you haven't used them before. Quick Capture is our easiest to use app, which focuses on rapid observation capture with big button capture as its interface. The interface is also highly customizable, which makes it really easy for users without specialist GIS training to use. Survey 123 is an app for form-centric data collection, where you can create surveys to share both internally, but also with the public. And you can start to bring in some more complex logic with Survey 123, both in the web, but also with its companion desktop application, Survey 123 Connect, which has a few more advanced capabilities. Field Maps is our comprehensive field app where you can visualize, collect, and edit data on a map through highly customizable smart forms. Field Maps also supports offline data collection with automatic syncing, which makes it really easy to use in the field. And the key difference between these apps is the level of customization you're able to achieve with them. So Quick Capture is our simplest mobile app, and Field Maps is our most configurable with the broadest range of capabilities. Jumping straight into enhancements you might have missed, in the mobile app for Quick Capture, we've seen improved offline symbology, and you can now control how symbology appears in the app when you're looking at unsent offline data. So initially, you could just see a map pin to show you where the data you'd collected was, but you can now also bring in button symbology or layer symbology, which you're seeing on the left there, to just help you get a bit more context about the data you're collecting with Quick Capture if you're in an offline environment. There are also now dynamic choice lists, and these are really great if you're working with large lists that are frequently updated, because they allow you to pull list options in automatically from existing feature layers in ArcGIS Online. And that means you're not consistently having to update your Quick Capture apps if your choices are constantly changing. Over to the web app. Not only can you use any ArcGIS Online layer for your dynamic choice lists, but you can also add in living atlas layers as query layers. So this means that anything available in the Living Atlas, you can pull into your Quick Capture apps. So for example, here, I'm just going to pull in the UK countries layer from the Office for National Statistics. And once I've found that and added it in as a query layer, it's really easy to bring it into a dynamic choice list. So just selecting the user input there that I want to add my choices to, you can see that instead of choosing single line text and asking a user which country or county they're collecting data in, I can add in my ONS Living Atlas layers. And that means that the users can select from a list instead of having to type it in themselves, really avoiding those manual data entry problems that we all come across. Another one is the ability to use Arcade in Quick Capture. So if you haven't seen Arcade before, it's a lightweight scripting language which can perform data processing and spatial queries on your data. If you've not tried Arcade out before, there are loads of resources available to help you get up to speed, but I'll just show you a really quick example that's helping me automatically collect the county for this app. So in lines 1 to 6 here, what I'm doing is reading in another ONS layer from the Living Atlas and storing it as a variable called regions. And then in line 9, I'm just doing a quick spatial query to say, for the region I've drawn with quick capture, so the polygon I'm collecting, is it intersecting with the geometries from the ONS boundary layer? And then lines 11 to 16, I'm just doing a quick if statement to say, if they do intersect, tell me the name of that parish. And if they don't bother and just do nothing. So a really quick query, but something that again is just speeding up that data capture and getting rid of the kind of faff for the field user to figure out what parish they're in and maybe put the wrong one in. The last update to quick capture that you may have missed is the ability to duplicate groups. So in the same way we've always been able to duplicate just individual buttons, you can now duplicate an entire group. And that can be really helpful for speeding up the app configuration there. And the last thing that's worth noting as well is that our icon gallery has seen some new icons being added, including these nice humanitarian ones. So it's worth having a look through the gallery to see if the icon you're after already exists. But if it doesn't, you can also upload your own. Moving over to Survey 123, in the mobile apps, location sharing has been added, which means that mobile workers can now toggle on to record where they've been during data capture. We've also seen support for more GNSS receivers in the app, as well as an offline base map, which gives you a bit more context when you're working offline. Over in the web, hopefully you haven't missed this one, but the Survey 123 assistant is available. And as Mark mentioned earlier, AI assistants are automatically turned off in ArcGIS Online, so you will have to have a look in both your ArcGIS Online organization settings, but also your Survey 123 settings to ensure they're enabled. The Survey 123 assistant is really great. In this example, I'm just asking it to make me an asset management survey where my users have to scan a barcode. And it's hard to believe that this video isn't sped up. So this is actually how fast you can go from an idea to a survey. And also just highlighting here this new barcode question type. This has been added in to the web app, so you no longer need to go into Survey 123 Connect to scan information from a barcode. Another new question type we've seen come in to Survey 123 is the location list. Our location lists allow your users to select a location from a list of options, and that will then store the geometry of the survey without them needing to find it on a map or give a full address. Location lists can be configured from any layer in ArcGIS Online. So in classic fashion, I'm going to use the UK counties from the ONS in the Living Atlas. And just setting up to use the name field from that, users in the survey will then see a nice list of every county in the UK to select their geometry from. So nice and easy there. It's also now possible to change question types after publishing, and this is a really handy one for anyone like me who chooses one type of question and then thinks, oh gosh, I wish I'd made that a Likert scale. So after publishing, the change question type will now give you a list of options that are available to switch from, and this will depend on the data schema that's been published. But as you can see, I can change my multiple select to a Likert scale without needing to delete the question and add a new one. I can publish again with no problems. Last but not least, in field maps, over in the mobile apps, there are increased capabilities to restrict offline working. And this can be either allowing users to work online. If that's toggled off, they can only work offline, And similarly, they can designate their own offline map areas, but if that's turned off, they will have to use the ones you've pre-allocated within the web app. It's also now possible to toggle off markup, which means that if you don't want to capture sketches and notes in field maps, you no longer have to. The info form element is also a really useful one to keep an eye on because you can now add read-only context to your forms and help your users collect their field data with those elements that provide a little bit of extra context. And another one that I don't think I even realized had changed in field maps, but is definitely super useful, is the ability to see the lengths of lines you're capturing. So as you add new points on during a line capture, the length will keep dynamically updating to give you a bit more context about your field operations. And in the web apps, it's now possible to create field maps from templates. So these templates can be really useful if you've not used field maps before. It can give you a bit of a flavour of the sorts of things you could do with field maps. But equally, if you are working with ground control or asset inspections or just regular field notes, these templates are currently available. And if you've used some more details about them and they sound good to you, you can just go straight into creating a field maps app from those templates, and it will create all the layers that you need for you. Another really useful one is the ability to set the coordinate system for your field maps. So by default, this will be the same as your organization's default base map, but you can also browse a list of coordinate systems and use any one you fancy, probably British National Grid, but it's up to you. And that will mean that any maps and layers being used in field maps will be in British National Grid as well. We've also seen new offline checks being improved in field maps. So this means that when you go to set up your maps for offline data capture, there's a new interface which will show you any issues which might need to be resolved before you can collect data offline. And that really useful feature you've just seen there is the ability to click just one button and it will fix your layer settings for you to make you and your layers ready to go straight out into the field. And last but not least, the final enhancement you may have missed is the ability to generate lists in field maps from a CSV. So any of the choice layers that can be configured in field maps, for example, this combo box, can now have a CSV pulled straight into them to provide the list options, which means that you no longer have to go in and type in absolutely every option. You can just drag a CSV straight in here, and it will be no surprise to anyone now that I'm giving you the UK counties, but as you can see, straight from my CSV, I've got all those options, and I no longer need to worry about how long it would take me to type all of those correctly with no typos. So those are just some of the enhancements you may have missed in our mobile apps over the past year, and hopefully it will encourage you to keep an eye out for the small tweaks that are always being made and might make huge improvements to the way you're using these apps. I'll hand back now to Alicia.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Claudia. So as we start to draw today's webinar to a close, just a couple of reminders. So firstly, thank you to everybody who have already logged questions and upvoted on Slido. It's worth noting for any enhancements requests or feature capabilities that you're interested in, the best place to log those questions would be on the ArcGIS ideas page. If you're not sure how to navigate there, please go to the community.esri.com website. And the great thing about it is that those ideas go directly to our product team and are considered for each release. We'll also include a link in our follow-up thread as well, so do not worry if you can't find the exact page. Likewise, please make sure you fill in the poll section in Slido. As I say, we really want to hear your feedback. How have you found today's session, but also what you'd like to hear going forward. The great news is that you don't have to wait too long until we're back together with another webinar. Now, you've heard the team talk about Arcade, so we'll be back with an Arcade dedicated webinar looking into how you can create expressions on the 24th of April. So keep your eyes peeled for the registration page. So all that's left for me to say from everybody at Esri UK is just a huge thank you to all of our presenters today. Some fantastic insight and updates coming this quarter. A big thank you to everybody who's tuned in live and that watches us back on demand. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, enjoying the sunshine, and we can't wait to see you soon on the next quarterly update. Bye for now.